This training discusses Senate Bill 163 and the changes to the Acknowledgment of Paternity form, which is now called Acknowledgment of Parentage. Today's training will cover an overview of Senate Bill 163. We'll talk about the new definitions, updates to the AOP forms, new form use, changes to overs, what stayed the same, and future updates. Oregon Senate Bill 163 significantly updates the state's parentage laws. The bill, which passed in the 2025 legislative session, modernizes legal language and provides clearer pathways for establishing parentage. Its provisions will go into effect in 2 stages, with some changes taking effect on January 1st, 2026, and the others going into effect on January 1st, 2027. This training covers changes that go into effect starting January 2026. There will be additional training scheduled for next year that cover the 2027 changes. The bill modernizes legal terminology and replaces the term paternity with the more inclusive parentage, reflecting and expanding legal recognition for diverse family structures. The bill stipulates gender-neutral language with expanded parentage definitions. The Oregon Health Authority is required to adopt a new AOP form that meets the specifications set by the law. Changes to the form will include expanded parentage definitions and an updated statement of rights and responsibilities. There are some new definitions on the new AOP form. These definitions are required by law. Birth information specialists don't need to be experts in the terms. Just be aware of where to point parents for definitions if they have questions. If parents have further questions, the form does mention several times that they may wish to consult a lawyer before signing. The new definitions are parentage. Paternity will now be referred to as parentage. This reflects more gender-neutral language. The AOP will be referred to as the Acknowledgment of Parentage. It is the parent-child relationship with associated rights and responsibilities. Adjudicated parent, a person who has been found to be a parent of a child by a court with jurisdiction. Alleged genetic parent, a person who claims or is alleged to be a genetic or possible genetic parent of a child whose parentage has not been established by a court, adjudicated. An alleged genetic parent does not include a presumed parent, someone whose parental rights have been terminated or declared not to exist, or a donor. May also be referred to as biological father or father. Intended parent, a person who intends to be a legal parent of a child conceived by assisted reproduction, including under a gestational surrogacy agreement, but does not include the parent who gave birth to the child. Parent who gave birth to the child, commonly referred to as biological mother or mother. Presumed parent, a person who is married to the parent who gave birth to the child at the time of the child's birth without a judgment of separation, or a person who was married to the parent who gave birth and the child was born within 300 days after the marriage was terminated by death, annulment, or dissolution, or after entry of judgment of separation. Presumed parents do not include where a child was conceived by assisted reproduction under a gestational surrogacy agreement. What can BIS or labor and delivery staff do if they get pushback or questions regarding the new definitions? You can reassure parents that the AOP is a legal form and it must meet the requirements of the new law. And also, the new definitions do not impact the mother, father, or parent, parent labels that appear on the birth certificate. There are several changes that have been made to each page of the hospital AOP form. We will take a look at those changes on the following slides. On the instructions page, section 1 through 4 information has been updated to include gender-neutral language. These are the 4 sections found on the AOP form that need to be completed by the parents and the hospital witness. Another thing that's new on the instructions page is that the hospital witness must read the entire statement of rights, responsibilities, alternatives, and consequences to the parents. This information is found on the last page of the AOP. This page also includes the definitions mentioned earlier in the presentation. The reason that the definitions are included is to help parents be better informed. The Center for Health Statistics worked with the Department of Justice and the Division of Child Support to ensure that parents had the information they needed to understand what they are agreeing to when signing the AOP. On the form that parents and the hospital witness completes, sections 2, 3, and 4 have been changed. In the next slides, we will cover what those changes are. The titles of Section 2 and Section 3 have changed to reflect gender-neutral language. In Section 2, the heading is now Parent who gave birth to the child. We also added the address for the parent who gave birth. Adding this address was required by the new law. In order to add the address, we did have to move the field for the last name before any marriages, otherwise known as maiden name, to the last line in Section 2. In Section 3, the heading is now Alleged Genetic Parent. The acknowledgment section has been expanded from 6 to 10 items. This section has new statements which include, I acknowledge the following. I am signing this acknowledgement for the purpose of establishing parentage of the child. The alleged genetic parent identified above is an alleged genetic parent of the child. A court has not determined that I'm not the parent of the child. The child does not have a presumed parent, other acknowledged parent, adjudicated parent, or intended parent other than the parent who gave birth to the child. I understand that this acknowledgement is the equivalent of an adjudication of parentage of the child and that a challenge to the acknowledgement is permitted only under limited circumstances. And then the last item is the hospital witness has read to me the statement of rights, responsibilities, alternatives, and consequences listed on the final page of this acknowledgement. In Section 4, we added the month, day, year format guidance under the date signed for each of the signatures. This was based on feedback from BIS and a common reason that AOPs have been rejected when the date format has been incorrect. The Statement of Rights and Responsibilities was updated and has a new name. The new title is Statements of Rights, Responsibilities, Alternatives, and Consequences. We will take a more in-depth look at these changes in the next slides. In addition to the gender-neutral language, there are some additional statements about when the acknowledgement cannot be used. For example, if the child has a presumed parent, other acknowledged parent, adjudicated parent, or intended parent other than the parent who gave birth to the child, or if a second parent is already listed on the existing birth record. In the Alternatives to Signing section, there's information about where parents may obtain free genetic testing. and a statement about time limitations for legally being removed as a parent. Other than some rephrasing of the court process, not much else has changed in this section. In the additional information section, there is contact information for the Oregon Child Support Program, including a web address and a phone number. A new requirement is that the Statement of Rights, Responsibilities, Alternatives, and Consequences page must be read to parents. Please let labor and delivery staff know about this new requirement. The statement is the entire last page of the AOP and must be read in its entirety. You may get some pushback on the length, but the statement had to meet a lot of different legal requirements that dictate what needs to be on it, and the information was required by law. The videos created for the old version of the AOP cannot be used starting January 1st, 2026. The Center for Health Statistics will mail an initial supply of the new forms to each facility in December. We will be sending both the English version and the Spanish version. We ask that you start using the new form January 1st, 2026, and it's okay to go ahead and shred the old forms after January 1st, only if you've received the new forms. We also ask that you let labor and delivery staff know about the new forms and when they need to be used. We also will accept old forms. The updates to the notarized version of the form are very similar to the hospital version of the form. It has the same gender-neutral language, new definitions, an expanded acknowledgment section, and an updated statement of rights, responsibilities, alternatives, and consequences. Remember that if the parents cannot complete the hospital version of the AOP, then they should be given the notarized version, which they can complete at a later date. Changes to OVERS. Hospital parentage forms will not be available from the Other Links Print Forms section of the birth registration menu starting January 1st, 2026. These forms were automatically populated with the child's and parent who gave birth to the child information. The auto-populated form won't be available as we are preparing the updates required for the form in 2027. The notarized form, 45-21, will be available to print for parents unable to complete the hospital form. Click on Forms from the top menu bar and then Print Forms. The hospital version of the form will also be added to this screen for both English and Spanish. All of the AOP forms are fillable PDFs. No other changes will be made to OVERS for the January 2026 implementation of the law. What is staying the same? The AOP is given if the parent who gave birth to the child was not married or in an Oregon registered domestic partnership to anyone at the time of the child's conception, birth, or any time in between, or at any time during the 300 days prior to the birth of the child. Oregon registered domestic partnerships have the same legal rights as marriage. This is the same as the current process. If the information on the birth record does not match what the alleged genetic parent has written on the AOP, the parentage may be rejected, as the parent did not sign off, witness, enter, or approve the information entered onto the birth worksheet. If parentage is established through an AOP, then the alleged genetic parent information must come from the AOP. The birth worksheet is a great document used to obtain the information and statistics for the child's birth, including parental attributes. And we collect the attributes data that's listed on the worksheet for statistical purposes. However, the alleged genetic parent identity information, like name, date of birth, and place of birth, all must come from the AOP as written by that parent. This is a legal document. Once filed, it is part of the permanent birth record. What is entered into OVERS becomes registered and is what is reflected on the birth certificates issued from the state. If parents indicate they are married or in an ORDP, then no AOP is needed. Parents can select either mother, father, or parent-parent designations for the birth certificate. And the timeline to complete the hospital AOP is 5 days from the date of birth, while the parent that gave birth is still a patient. Other items that are staying the same are the witness signature dates and the parent signature dates must match. And the acknowledgments of parentage should be sent to the state as soon as possible. Please don't hold those and send them in bulk. Also, the Center for Health Statistics appreciates all the work that BIS and labor and delivery staff do to get those acknowledgments of parentage submitted accurately and on time. There are additional changes required by Senate Bill 163, which will go into effect in January of 2027. We will keep you informed about these changes later next year. Here are a few of our online resources for future reference. On the Birth Information Specialist page of our website, you will find parentage information, including a frequently asked questions and helpful hints for completing the AOP forms. Parentage forms and instructions can also be found on the Birth Information Specialist page. The Division of Child Support link will take you to locations of offices around the state. Parents can use these offices for notarial services as well as assistance in getting the notarized form submitted. In some cases, they may even pay the fees. If you have questions about the new parentage laws, feel free to contact me, Kathy Ellis, the Vital Records Trainer, at kathy.ellis@oha.oregon.gov. You can also contact our Partner Services team or our Amendments team. Thank you for attending this training.